Good morning, my dear students. This is a second class of the integrated plant pest management. So we are going to continue the part one. The last class we were studying the integrated pest management, and we started a little bit of this major importance of integrated pest management. What are the benefits of integrated pest management? Why we need to go for an integrated pest management? So in this today's class, we are going to continue further how we are going to decide at which pest population, if we are taking decision, how much control measures needed at this state. That is going to decided by economic threshold level and economical injury level. There are two terms, right? So the first graph, it shows the economic threshold level. So when the population of the pest, so you all know about the population dynamics of the pest is elaborated by the sigmoid curve, right? So according to the population of a pest, if you are taking a one pest, the time with the time, the number of pests increase continuously if there is no any natural control measures or artificial control measures is not taken. It will reach at the maximum level. So we call it as the carrying capacity. It's a point, peak point. Right? We call it as a carrying capacity reach. So there are 2 points here. One point is when the pest increase its population up to this point, it will not cause any economic damage. Economic damage means so we are expecting the 5% damage of the total production and above. Up to the level, the pest population will not cause 5% of damage. If you are allowing that pest population to increase further, it can cause economic damage. That point we call it as an economic injury level. Economic threshold level means lowest population that can be able to cause economic damage. Up to the level we have, our target is we have to minimize the pest population up to the level of economic threshold level. Then there will be no any economic damage. The second graph, it shows, if you are comparing the first and second, is showing the green arrow where you have to take management aspects by using one of the several tactics indicated in the integrated pest management. At that level, your profit will be higher than the cost of control. If you are allowing the pest to increase continuously, then your benefit will become less, cost will become high. Here, the second graph it shows, right? So therefore, according to the pest population only, you are going to take decisions. That's how this is a theoretical model. It explains that in which population level you are going to take or implement any management aspects. That's how the integrated pest management is not preferred by many farmers because it's mostly theoretical. So decision making, you cannot take quick decisions. It's very difficult. It's a mainly theoretical model, right? But as a scientist, the agricultural scientist, your point of view, if you want to decide an IPM model from a farm, or if you are going to work as an agricultural consultant, immediately you have to develop a model for a particular farm. How you are going to manage the pest of a farm by using an integrated pest management. In which level, in which pest. That's how the integrated pest management model varies with pest to pest, crop to crop. Right? So these two definitions, it says economic injury level means lowest population level that will cause economic damage. Economic threshold level, up to that point, it will not cause economic damage. So you have to take decision at economic threshold level. So if you are taking economic threshold level and economic injury level in your consideration of the cost benefit analysis, so economic injury level is equal to C over VIDK. Cost, C means the cost, over in what way, in which ways the pest can cause the damages. Market value of the crop, you have to think. Injury per the pest and crop damage per injury. Reduction in injury or percent control. Right? So market value of the crop means, for example, some crops are higher market value. For example, if you are taking the some medicinal plants, right? So in 1 kilogram, maybe 20,000, 30,000. In some vegetable crops, if you are considering some importing, if you are not cultivating in Sri Lanka, then is an export purpose. If you can use it, then it's high cost. For example, tea plantation, the export crops. It's a market value of the crop. And the injury per pest, how that there are four ways the pest can cause the injury, damages. No, I earlier explained that in the first: direct, indirect, and vector-borne, and qualityless. If the injury per pest is it's attacking in the non-economically important portion, then how much of leaf it can eat per pest. And crop damage per unit injury. If one leaf is eaten, how much yield will be declined? So according to that, so you can decide economic injury level. Okay, this population up to that level, you can allow. For example, some insect are very voracious feeder. If you are taking that some caterpillars, fall armyworm. Fall armyworm caterpillar can eat whatever the maize leaves and hops. So market value of the hops, if you are cultivating that one for export purposes, the market value may be high. But injury per larva, injury purpose means injury per larva. So one larva can eat one crop per day. It means it's causing the heavy damages. If you are taking that maybe flower feeder, it's eating little bit. Then the injury purpose is less. So you can allow more pest. Even for fall armyworm, you cannot allow the single larva because it's a voracious feed. According to that, you can decide economic injury level, in which population it can cause economic damage. So minimum population you are going to allow, right? Without management, that will not cause economic injury level. That's you can decide by using this formula. You will study in the final year. We are going to specialize on agricultural biology for integrated pest management detail, right? How to set up models and application of these models and everything, right? So these are the strategies. As you have studied the integrated disease management, also here strategies for integrated pest management, because integrated pest management is encompassing of several tactics. So cultural, physical, biological, so botanical pesticides, autocidal, chemical, different tactics you are going to apply time to time. You are going to implement according to the environmental condition and the crop growth stages. Some cultural aspects practiced by the farmers, they will start from the selection of planting material up to the harvest. There are several techniques. So one is the tillage practices. So tillage practices is compared to the disease management and the pest management, you can reduce the pest load tremendously by using or implementing the tillage practices. For example, Spodoptera litura, that's an armyworm, right? Common armyworm. The fall armyworm is something different. Spodoptera fergifera, is Spodoptera litura. And Chelicoverpa armigira, this is fruit borer. And fruit flies and thrips. So why we are considering these pests? Because these pests, the crescent stage, mean the pupal stage, will be there inside the soil. So these two are nocturnal. Spodoptera and Chelicoverpa are nocturnal insect. So they make pupa in earthen cocoon inside. You would have studied in the entomology, right? Earthen cocoon, object type pupa inside the soil. The fruit flies, they will make the barrel pupa, coacted type pupa inside the soil. Thrips will pupate inside the soil. So therefore, if you are plowing and opening the land, then you are exposing that crescent stages to desiccate or to dry up by heat, solar radiation. Or at the time of plowing, so you would have seen that one farmer, if a farmer or the tractor is plowing, the many birds will follow the farmer and the tractor. Why? To pick up these crescent stages. So birds can pick up and it reduces the pest load. Then the next season, the pest population will be less. And also plowing time, you are abolishing the breeding sites, especially the grasshoppers. Grasshoppers are breeding inside the soil. So removing, you are exposing the necks. So it will help to reduce the initial pest load. And the deep burying of stubbles. While you are disc plowing, we are using the disc plowing, you are just turning and deep burrowing. The deep burying, right? Turning and deep burying that stubbles, then those pest will go deeper. Brown plant hoppers, eggs, yellow stem borers, larvas, cabbage polybeetles, grubs and eggs will go deeper and they will die. It will not move because as like a pathogen, it will not move up, it will die. That's how the tillage practices are very important in case of pest management. Second one is a selection of plant and pest-free planting material. The plant pest-free material is very important to minimize the initial pest load. That's how so many farmers are using the seedlings. They are making the nurseries and making the seedlings, they are transplant. If you are making the seedlings and transplanting, you can minimize the many pests. And also nowadays, you have to collect the planting and seed material from the certified nurseries and the seed certification centers certified seeds. That indicates that the seed is free from pest. Or maybe eggs will not be present, or the young ones of the insect will not be present. Right? If you are not if you are not selecting the source, then there will be chances of spreading. Other than the insect pest, you can find the many weeds. Weed seeds are mixing with the seed of paddy and onion and chili. One such example is Padinium. They are suspecting that they brought its seeds imported from India, from onion seeds. That's how you have to be very careful on selection of planting material. It should be free from pest. Third strategy is a variation of planting and method of planting and harvesting dates. So normally, if you are thinking that your pest will breed highly in the seedling stages, especially thrips, then you can care your seedlings in the nursery and you go for a transplanting. While transplanting, you can clip off the top leaves of the seedlings, then because thrips will be there in the top leaves in the seedlings. right? So you are reducing the pest load. And also Gelostem borer, Screpophaga initiativa. Stenchiatothrips biformis is rice thrips. So if you are taking Gelostem borer of the rice, Screpophaga initiativa also laying egg as an egg masses in the top leaves. So while you are transplanting, if you are clipping of the seedlings, you are removing the egg masses. This is a seedling transplanting method. And also you can adjust the planting time. For example, in thrips, if you are taking the chili, chili thrips, Scrotothrip dorsalis is a highly effective and causing the damages in the dry seasons. So the temperature is increasing. So what you can do is before onset of rain or before the hot season, 1 month ahead, you can start that transplanting of this chili, right? So before closing of the monsoon rain, the monsoon rain, if before closing the monsoon rain, if you are transplanting, then you will wash off the thrips and plant will grow very fast. When the crop exposed to hot temperature, at the time you could have, the plant will be ready for the first harvest. The first and second harvest are giving the more yield, So that's how you are adjusting the planting time and harvesting date also. The harvesting date, if you're expecting that your harvesting date is coming under the monsoon or rainy period, before the rainy period you have to harvest. Otherwise, this, if, for example, if you are taking the groundnut, before the onset of rain you have to harvest. Otherwise, you can expect red hairy caterpillars, black hairy caterpillars, the castor. If you are cultivating the castor, black hairy caterpillars, it will start to lay, adults will started to lay eggs after onset of rain. So before going for a harvesting, before onset of rain, you can go for harvest. So if you are adjusting planting and harvesting dates, you can minimize the pest incidences. And the spacing, plant spacing. Next one is a plant spacing, space planting. So normally thick plant, right? Thick plantations. If you're taking the rice, right? Brown plant hopper will be, attack will be very high. Your plant dense is high, dense plant. That's how you have to go for a thinning. Or if you are choosing the transplanting method, then you will plant it lightly, than the dense. So if you are using some parachute techniques, sometimes in the spot it will be dense. If you are observing the dense planting, there spots are there in your field, then you have to remove it. Otherwise, the chances for build-up of this BPH, we call it as a BPH, brown plant hopper, Nilapavata lugens. And also, some of the rice dipterans, whole maggot, golmich, their breeding site is dense plant population. So you have to be very careful. This golmich and whole maggot are highly important or attacking in the wet zone, in wet intermediate zones than the dry zones. So you have to use proper spacing of your plant and thinning of your plant. In other way, in agronomic point of view, for example, if you are cultivating the rice, the thin or transplanting, it will give more tillers. You can get the yield too, right? In the other way around, you can get the yield too. In the hot season, if it is very hot season, you can go for dense planting, but otherwise it's not advisable. So you are giving a convenient environment to build up a pest. Intercultural operations. Intercultural operations are commonly practiced by the farmers. While cultivating, they will go for a weeding, right? They will go for a hoeing. In between the plants, they will go for a hoeing. If you are doing the intercultural operation, you should not disturb or you should not make injury to the plant. right? Especially, so trimming of bunds, right? Trimming of bunds time to time, and in between the plants, turning up of soil, removing of the weeds in orchard crops are helpful to minimize especially cutworm in vegetables, horn field and cabbage field, because cutworm larva will be there in the soil, and white grubs in coconut. You can go for a mulches, and grasshoppers, especially they are laying eggs in the bunds, and maggots of the flies in orchards, they are pupating inside the soil. Just if you are continuously tilling your soil, then you are exposing and disturbing the crescent stages, and they will not become an adult. Earthing up for the groundnut and sugarcane. Groundnut, you are earthing, giving an earthing up. So this is, you can reduce the white grub attack in groundnut. In sugarcane, if you are going for an earthing, this is a must practice as in sugarcane and groundnut. Otherwise, you will not expect the pecking in groundnut, no? Peck formation. The sugarcane also, if you are going for, you are going because as a advantageous root will become coming. So you have to go for an earthing up. Otherwise there is a chances of falling of these sugarcane. If you are going for an earthing up, then you are not allowing the borers, especially stem borers. They will target the in between the internode, very closer to the soil, root, shoot, joining points. So you are covering with the soil, so adult will not go into that, will not lay eggs. The banana too, the banana rhizomes, if you are continuously cultivating banana, rhizome will be exposed. Or after harvesting, the cut portion will be exposed. If you are going for covering with that soil, then you will reduce the rhizome beetle and pseudostem beetle breeding sites in banana. Right, so these are, and passing hose. Hose means long thread, right? You are passing in between the plants. Especially these are practices in rice field to dislodge the caseworms. Nymphula depentalis. Caseworm will be the very big problem in some isolated areas. So if you are passing the rope means long thread, coir, right? So in between the two rows or in the field, you are dislodging. How you can do is, before the passing the hose, you have to flood the land. Then you have to pass the hoe. All the caseworms will fall on the flood. Then you have to drain off. At the catchment point, you have to collect all these caseworms, and you have to abolish it. But IRRI is not recommending passing rope in the rice field. So because if you are passing the rope, then there will be a chances for disturbing the natural enemies, especially spiders. Spiders are very good predators. Some lizards are very good predators. Some frogs are very good predators. If you are continuously disturbing that diversity environment, paddy field environment, then you are disturbing the nest of spiders too. That's how they are not recommending. But if the incidences are there, there is no other ways. You can practice and you can easily remove without chemicals. The sixth one is the crop rotations. Crop rotation is very good agricultural practice. So you can minimize the pest very efficiently than the diseases. Because some pests are monophagous. They can eat only one crop. Some pests are polyphagous. Some pests are host specific. If you are cultivating thrips, cultivating the chili thrips will be there. It's a host specific for chili. Then if you are alternatively, you are rotating the crop with other than the solanaceous, mainly solanaceous, so we are going monocots, rotating, then you can severely reduce the thrips population in the next season. Rotating the groundnut with maize, you can reduce the colotrichia, white grubs. The groundnut white grub will be there. If you are going for a alternate after groundnut cultivation, if you are going for a maize, then there is no chances for the groundnut white grubs, then you can easily minimize. And sugarcane after potato, right? Potato cultivation is highly affected by this cutworm. Agrotis ipsilo is a potato cutworm. After the cultivation, harvesting of potato, you can go for a sugarcane. Then you can minimize these cutworm population in the next season, right? But this is not a very big problem here because we are not only one season only we are cultivating, and in Nuwara district they are cultivating more potato, but they cannot cultivate sugarcane over there because it's cold. But in India and other China and other countries, so they are continuing. Their environment is more suitable for both potato and sugarcane cultivation continuously. Then they have to go for rotations. If you are choosing your crops monocot and dicot in the crop rotation, then you can easily minimize these pests. Planting trap crops. Trap crops, I already explained that in the disease management. Trap crops mean these crops are going to divert the pest from your main crop. For example, cotton bollworm. Right? Cotton bollworm is a very big problem in cotton cultivation areas. This cotton from the Malvaceae, family Malvaceae. We are cultivating the okra from this member from the Malvaceae. In between the cotton here and there, or before planting of cotton, you are cultivating the okra, you will attract more amount of cotton bollworm towards okra than the cotton. That's how it is recommended. Cotton okra 10:1, 10 rows of cotton and 1 rows of okra. You can minimize the cotton, right? You can minimize the cotton, minimize the pesticide application in the cotton, right? And if you are applying pesticide only the cotton, then the pest will move towards okra. Then you can easily remove it. And tobacco and castor, Spodoptera and whiteflies, right? To attract Spodoptera and whiteflies, you can also minimize that. And cabbage mustard, 25:2 rows, it's recommended. So because cabbage, especially the diamondback moth is very big problem in cabbage. So if you are cultivating cabbage and mustard into 25:2 rows, then you can easily remove, you can easily escape from the diamondback moth attack from your cabbage crops. You can go for a cabbage and tomato intercropping. Intercropping means so 10 rows of cabbage and 2 rows of tomato to minimize the cabbage flea beetle. Why? So because tomato will produce certain chemicals, it will confuse the pest to identify the cabbage in the field. You can easily escape. It's called as a trap crops. Right? Some crops are antagonistic crop too. You can use that one. Even for the tomato plus leeks. Right? Different. Onion plant with leeks. So if you are cultivating an onion plus leeks, then or cabbage with onion, cabbage with leeks in between that one, so you can easily escape from this cabbage flea beetle attack. And nutrient management, another aspect, another cultural aspect of nutrient management is because if you are applying more amount of nitrogen fertilizers, or mainly nitrogen fertilizers, your plant will become more succulent. If your plant is more succulent, there is a more chances for attraction of sucking pests, especially hoppers, leaf hoppers, plant hoppers, and bugs. Why? Because your plant is very succulent. While they are sucking, your plants are attracting more hoppers, then you can expect more viral infected chances, because these are the vectors. Therefore, you have to use optimum level of NPK. And also even they are recommending that you can go for an organic amendments. with balanced nitrogen, right? And also, if you are applying more amount of fertilizer, the weeds will compete with your main crops, right? Means with your main crops, right? So the nitrogen application, so chances for more leaf hopper attacks, sucking pest attack. That's how you have to use organic amendments with balanced doses of NPK. You can use slow releasing fertilizers. And also if you are using certain certain fertilizers, especially certain nutrients, you can minimize the pest injury, especially silicon. If you are applying more silicon, definitely you can reduce the yellow stem borer attack in the rice. If you are applying more amount of potash, then you can minimize, for example, even the root boring insect, root borers. You can, if you are applying more amount of potash, you can escape from the root borers, especially the groundnut white grubs. And if you are applying for a more amount of potassium in sorghum, it reduces the shoot flies attacks, right? Shoot flies attacks. So in this way, you can minimize the pest incidence by balance maintaining of fertilizers, right? Balanced fertilizer management, you can easily reduce the pest incidences. Next, water management. The water management also an important cultural aspects. You can easily reduce the many crescent stages of the pest and also life stages. For example, if you are cultivating the banana, you are expecting your field is highly infested with banana pseudostem weevil and rhizome weevil. Then if you are flooding your land and rain the land, immediately flood and next day to rain the land, you can reduce the banana rhizome weevil attack, Cosmopolitus sordidus. The potato field, you are flooding the potato field, cutworm will float. The birds can take out and drain the water, you can collect it. And alternate wetting and drying, right? Alternate wetting and drying. This practice is commonly used if the BPH, brown plant hopper attack, is high in the rice. You can increase the water level and decrease the water level time to time, because BPH is preferred to the water level where just above the water level they are attacking the host. So if you are drain the water, the hoppers will come down. If you increase the water, the whole stem will be immersed in the water, then there is no chances for BPH attack. And white crops also, flooding and dry. Flooding and rain. And flooding and raining, you can also reduce as a nematode attack too. These are also pests. In the rice field, commonly they are preferred to flood the land, not drain. Why? To manage the weeds. If you are flooding, rice can escape, but weeds can die because they cannot respirate. Rice, you all know about that when they have an aerial root system. Whatever the water level is there, rice will grow up. But weeds will die because there is no any oxygen. Next is a sanitation, right? Next is a sanitation. So the sanitation is an cleaning of your field. Whatever the stubbles and debris are there in your field, these stubbles and the stubble piles and debris is going to act as a breeding site for the pest, especially in the coconut plantation. So leaves and the rotten woods, rotten trunks of the coconut trunks are there, and even the farmyard manure keeps are there. So black beetle will lay the eggs in the farmyard manure keeps. So time to time, turning and applying that some biological control agents, Beauveria bassiana. So it's a chances for the reducing that white grubs attack. Sorry, not white grub, laying of the black beetles, right? And also if you are removing the banana pseudostems after harvesting, the many field you can find, would have seen that when we were there in the field visit, pseudostem will be thrown up somewhere else. This pseudostem will give us chances for breeding of this rhizome weevil and pseudostem weevil. Right, so you have to collect and burn it. These are sanitation practices. And also not allow the farm implements without cleaning and then enter into your field. Remove the not allow the unwanted foreigners, right? Unwanted people to go in and come out frequently. They have chances to spread this pest, right? Other than this, these are the cultural practices, the main cultural practices. So you can easily manage the pest load, and you can prevent from the pest introduction into the field if you are implementing these cultural practices, right? These are the cultural practices mainly focused for the pest management. Other than these cultural practices, so you can use for the some of the cultural practices are there. So normally setting up of fumes under the orchard. By setting up of the fumes under the orchard time to time, you can reduce the hoppers attack, especially mango leaf hoppers will be attacked. If the mango hopper attack is high on your mango trees, you can set up a fumes. And fruit flies also you can remove. If in the orchard some fallen fruits will be there, damaged fruits. If you are properly removing and burning or deburying this, you can minimize the fruit flies attacks. This way you can also use more cultural practices traditionally practiced by the farmer. And some other cultural practices are there, some erecting some of these scarecrows. At the time of sowing time, you are setting up the scarecrows, or before harvesting you are setting up scarecrow. You can minimize the incidents from the vertebrates, especially monkeys and rabbits and birds, right? So this is, we call it as an setting up something. And also you can give some of the foods, all right? So dead insects, you can throw dead insect in your field. So this will attract more amount of predatory birds towards myna, right? Owl in the night. In the Israel, if you are going there, they are rearing the owls, because by giving the nest to the owl, so owl will sit. And in the night, if their rats problem is there in their field, rats will be controlled easily by using these owls. These are some of the cultural practice traditionally followed, right? The next one is the mechanical control. So mechanical control means you are going to use going to use machines or man-made devices, or the human is directly going to remove the pest. Hand picking of egg masses, especially I told you the seedlings, right? In the seedlings, if you are expecting that egg masses, or if you are going properly your field continuously for monitoring or scouting, if you are identifying the egg masses, you are removing and burning or deburying these egg masses, then you are reducing the pest load. And if you are identifying that newly emerged larva will be as a group. If you are picking that leaves and burning that leaves with this larva, you can initially reduce the pest loads. Can collections, regularly monitoring while you are going and coming from the field, you have to collect and squeeze it, kill it. So can collection of these egg masses and life stages in another mechanical way. And also you can use some traps, beating traps. If you are identifying so much of beetles attack there in your orchard crops, you can go and put the hybrid trees under the tree, just shake your branches. All the beetles will fall down into the beating trays, hybrid beating trays. Then you can burn it, or you can kerosene and kill it. You can bag the fruits, especially in the orchard growers. So they practice commonly pomegranate, mango. Nowadays, there are some banana growers also they are using just before harvesting the bagging the fruits from the bats, fruit sucking moths. Fruit sucking moth is a serious problem. Bats, squirrels, and birds. Right? Some of the wasps in grapes, yellow banded wasp. They're covering the bags mean exclusion of, and the covering of snake goat and bitter gourd with polythene bags. You can escape from the fruit flies attack. And you can go for a metal banding. So metal banding means, so the tree, coconut tree trunk, if you are sticking or fixing that metal, very shiny metals, then the squirrels will not climb, rats will not climb, because squirrels and rats are creating the problem in coconuts. Some of the beetles or caterpillars, if you're going to walk, ants, if you want to going to work with mealybugs, they will not walk. Or even even above this metal plates, you can apply some of the Vaseline. Then ant will stick on. It will not go up with this ant, mealybug eggs. Ants are spreading, right? And also you can put some wire fences, exclusion of rabbits, monkeys, kangaroos. Some kangaroo, we were using the kangaroo exclusion nets when we were there in Australia. And elephant fences, electric fences. But these vertebrate species are very clever. You see that in the second picture, how that elephant, right? How that elephant damaged the fence without touching that electric wire. You see, right? They are very clever because they are, so they are learning that from that, because they need a food. The human are encroaching their habitats, then they will come out. Nowadays, the people are killing the cheetahs. Right? Cheetahs in tea plant up countries, Hatton, Nuwaralia, Muskelia, those areas. Because wild animals we are killing unwantedly because they are coming in due to they need the food, because forest lands has been encroached. So you can use some physical exclusions. This is we called as a mechanical devices, right? Mechanical devices. You can use it. And also you can use certain traps, sticky traps, small insect. If you have yellow sticky traps, you can make yellow plates and vaselinized, or apply some grease, place here and there. So some small insects, especially aphids and thrips and whiteflies, they are very minute. They will attract her towards yellow color and blue color, red color of some insects, orchards. Attracted, and they will come and hit on that one, they will stick on that. So you can, through this, you can easily minimize the pest loads. We call it sticky traps, yellow sticky trap. So you can use some pheromone traps, right? Pheromone traps or food lure traps. So especially fruit flies. Here in Sri Lanka, the people are using this type of, right? So people are using, so different type of fruit fly traps. Here, this type they are using. Inside that one, they are using that methyl eugenol, mean fruits, well ripened banana fruits, and put some, allows, it will flavor, it will create some flavor like ethanol, right? By oil fermentation. So they are mixing with a chemical, nasty chemical, so it will be attracted and killed. At pheromone trap, there are several pheromone. Other than that, several pheromone traps specific, because this is food lure trap, not pheromone trap. Food lure trap means, so you are giving the protein sources. The protein sources create chemical cues to the pest. Pest will be attacked because they need proteins more for breeding, right? Breeding. Otherwise, they will not breed much. So if you are giving the protein sources, you can easily manage the fruit flies attack. These are the pheromone traps. Then opposite, especially the male pheromones, right? The female pheromones, they are extracting. These are chemicals sexually attracting the males. So these pheromones, they will set up traps, right? So males attracted and finally catched males will be killed. Then there is a chance, no chances for mating and population advancement of many, because these pheromones are very host specific. Fruit flies producing different chemicals, caterpillars, larvae, especially butterflies and moths are producing different chemicals. So you have to identify the same exact chemical and you have to artificially synthesize, or you have to extract directly from the insect and you can use, right? So nowadays they are using artificially the same chemical what is there in the natural pheromones, and they are using for pheromone traps. So these are the mechanical, right? These are the mechanical ways of minimize the pest attack. Right? Minimize the pest attack. Other than this mechanical method, they are also using the different noises, especially to chase the monkeys, like the dogs, the dingo dog sounds. What they are doing is nowadays farmers, they are dingo dog setting the boxes and creating the big sound of dog like barking. Pop, 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 pop. These monkeys and rabbits will not come in. And all the days, what we are doing is we are just using for making sound like bells to chase the squirrels from the mango trees earlier. Nowadays, people are not following, right? So, and for the bandicoots also for to catch the rats, they are using rat traps. Different traps also they are using. So these are, we call it as an mechanical way of control of pest. Locust also. Nowadays they are using that, making big sounds to chase the locust. Mechanical way of pest control. Right? These are the mechanicals. And physical forces also you can use to minimize the pest incidences or kill the pest. Especially high rays, X-rays, gamma rays. Normally, so if you are transporting any material from one country to another country through the land borders, what they are doing, they are using the X-rays and gamma rays to kill, because otherwise they cannot check, no. And also they will use certain X-rays and gamma rays to kill the whatever the life form of insect inside the life form or egg form of insect inside the container. Right? This is especially for stored product management, stored product pest management, physical force. And heat, burning of stubbles, setting of fire, right, in the elevated areas in the night time, setting up a fire. The fire light will attract many insects, right? So then the insect will die. Photo-loving insects will come. That's how many insects are coming in night towards lights. No, setting up of light traps in the field with carcinized. Especially you can easily control yellow stem borers, right? And hot water dipping, especially the to remove the attached eggs and immobile insect, very minute insect from your planting stock. Especially they are using manioc and rosa to remove the scales. Not high heat water, just hot water, 60 to 65 degrees Celsius, immediately dipping and removing. So this will kill. And cold storage, especially the potato tuber moth is a very big problem in the cold storage areas. That's how they are using that cold storage at 4 degrees C. They store the potatoes, and many vegetables also they are storing in 4 degrees C and even with freeze condition. Airtight containers they are using, especially to minimize the stored product insect. Airtight containers. And also they are using the physical very sucking fans in the high pilos. We are having the IPHT, post-harvest technology. They are devices to remove the beetles and weevils from the rice. They're using the sucking fans. Sucking fans suck all the eggs and the beetles, right? So that's how they are removing that. So these are some physical method and also making some bunds, especially red hairy caterpillar is not practice. So digging digging the land around the border, around the your field. So this is will not allow to come the rabbits and elephants into the field. They are putting some physical control. This is especially they are using here the forces, heat, raise and moisture, drying, especially drying. You are normally practices in the homemade pest, so drying of your grains, green gram, black gram, especially from these beetles and weevils attack time to time. So paddies, stored paddies, you are allowing for drying to remove this rice moth. That is a physical control method. Another control methods is there, the biological control method. You are going to use the biological control agents. You can use maybe predators. You can use parasitoids. You can use pathogens. These biological control agents are very efficient. Some, if it is host specific, the problem is environmental adaptation. Sometimes it will take long time to take full control, right? So therefore, if you are creating augmentation of natural enemies, whatever the natural enemies in the same place, native to Sri Lanka, so you're giving an augmentation of natural enemies. That's what I told you. So growing the flowering plant around your field. Right? That's so many farmers, they will not abolish certain flowering plants, especially sunkem. So especially they are using marigold. So these flowers attack natural enemies, the natural enemies breed it. And you can give some of them some nests to attract predatory birds. Right? You are giving some sugar solution, right? Giving sugar solutions to adult of the biological control. This is we call as it. In this way, you can augment, increase the population of the biocontrol agent. If they increase their population, easily they can work out. Quickly they can control it. So I told you there are three ways: parasites and predators and pathogen. Right? Parasitoids, parasite or parasitoids mean these are wasps especially. These wasps are easily you can abolish the eggs of an insect and larva and pupa of an insect. For example, one such famous one is a trichogramma. So trichogramma, you can use this in egg parasitoids. Whatever the insect exists, they are small insect, or egg may be bigger than this trichogramma. They will lay their egg inside that insect egg, pest egg. So then there is no any catching. And aphelenticus, bracon, this is a larval parasitoids. Right? These parasitoids easily can kill the larva and pupa and the eggs. And predators, there are so many predators. Even frog also the predators, snails also the snake also the predators, owls predators, myna. Other thing you can use insect predators, Rhedolia, ladybird beetle, prime endits, green lacewing bugs, dragonflies. Right? These are the predators. And if you are increasing the population of predators, or in giving the environment to breed the predators, if your land is free from chemicals, then automatically they will increase the population, parasites and predators. And pathogens also you can use to kill your insect pests, especially bacterial agent, Bacillus thuringiensis, BT. Nowadays everywhere say BT brinjal, BT corn, BT cotton. This means an BT, bacteria, Bacillus thuringiensis, producing toxin. This toxin producing gene, they isolated and inserted into the crop, GM crops. That's how the problem in India, some BT brinjal. They are thinking that it can affect the human being, but nowadays that's what the termination gene technology, they are using that. Termination technology mean if the BT gene is detected from the main crops, then it will not work. Yes. So it means that if you are plugging the hops, the gene in the hops will not work. right? Gene silencing technique they are using. But insect will not pick up, no. Insect eat while they are in the trees, no, crops. So they will work to the insects. And also BT gene will not work in the human being because our digestive tract is an acidic, no, not alkaline. Insect, the BT toxins to work, it needs alkaline pH. That's what they are working very well. Mosquitoes they are using to control the mosquitoes. BTG nowadays, another bacteria they are using, Volvarilla, right? Volbus, so not Volvarilla, Volbassia volva. This is from Australia, right? So BT from some of the developed countries in America, they are importing. And fungi also usually you can use. BT also you can use as an insect. The genes, BT genes. And also you can use the Beauveria, Lecanicilium, Metarhizium, Basidiomyces. These are the fungi. So these fungi also can kill, which means they can create the diseases in insect larvae, especially insect larvae, not adult are big hardy. Insect larvae are soft bodies insects. So what they will do is they will penetrate and create some septicemia, some producing some toxins. Insect will die due to the sick. These are the entomopathogenic fungi. This is entomopathogenic bacteria. This is entomopathogenic fungi. This is Beauveria we call white muscardine, green muscardine fungi. These are working very nicely. You can use for even the Basidiomyces for nematode control too. And virus, NPVs and GVs, nucleopolyhedrosis virus and granulosis virus. These viruses are creating the diseases in insect larvae, especially lepidopterans. That's how if you are spraying that viruses, because viruses will be inactive in the environment. If you are spraying in the leaves, they will be in inactive form. If the insect is consuming, it will become an active. Right? NPVs are prominent, nucleopolyhedrosis virus. So larvae will die. And nematode, entomopathogenic nematodes also you can know, Steinanima and Heterorhabditis. These nematodes penetrate the insect body and eat inside the content of the insect. Because these nematodes will not kill the insect, killed by that bacteria associated with this nematode. Right? There are two bacteria, Photorhabdus and Xenorhabdus, two bacteria associated with these two nematodes. These bacteria will kill the insect, nematode will eat the insects. They will not kill. Right? So in this way, entomopathogens, right, predators and parasitoids, they are working as a biological control agent very sufficiently. But the problem is environmental, if not suitable, or if your farm environment is from chemical, if you are frequently applied chemical, this biocontrol agent will not work. Earlier, before invention of these chemicals, the insects were under control. No, it's because of nowadays trend is towards biological control. They are minimizing the chemical. Combination of cultural and biological control agent, it will work if you are giving a pleasant environment. So another technique is there, autocidal control. Autocidal is an advanced technique. It's need initial cost, higher amount of cost. So that's how the farmers cannot practice, but the government agencies of every country, they are practicing, especially what they are doing by using the gamma rays and X-rays, they are converting the male of an insect into infertility. Right? The fertility control. So males, if the mating with the females, it will not produce viable offspring. Sterilizing the males, right? Sterilizing the males by using the rays, gamma rays and X-rays. So this is practice in the Hode. If you are going there in the field visit, you will find it how especially fruit flies. So fruit flies is very big problem. What they are doing is they are using the rays and multiply this sterilized males, millions and millions, and remove and releasing into the environment through the flights. Especially they control Japanese fruit flies. Okinawa island, what the Japanese people done is they sterilize that males and removed, inoculated that one through the flights. So these males and the natural males will be there in the environment, but these males are competent with that males for mating with females. So then females will produce eggs without fertilization. When there is no any offspring, this autocidal techniques is successfully used in Japan and Mediterranean fruit fly control and Japanese fruit fly control. But nowadays we are practicing also to control these fruit flies here in to minimize the fruit flies attack in gherkins and the goat family, snake gourd, bitter gourd, and frogs. Another technique is here you can use the pheromones, right? So many pheromones. So pheromones is a sexual chemicals produced by the insect to attract its opposite mates. There are different type of pheromones, but we are using the sexual pheromones. Insect producing alarm pheromone, morning pheromone, different pheromone. You would have studied in the honeybees, no? Aggravating pheromone. These sexual pheromones we are using, they are making the traps to attract opposite parties. We are removing and killing pheromones. But the problem of pheromone is you have to maintain the exact concentration. That's so time to time, once in a week or once in 2 days, you have to change the pheromone traps. Otherwise, it will not work. Right? The pheromones. So another one is there you can use botanical insecticides. Certain botanical insecticides. Botanical insecticides are extract from the plants and plant seeds or plant branches. These extracts, if you are using in the concentration form, they change the one or another method. They they change the physiology of an insect. For example, Azadirachta, neem extract, nymphin and nymphidine. These chemicals, if you are spraying, the female will lay eggs from the young ones catching from the eggs will be malformed. It will not produce which adult. So because of chemical. And tobacco extract, neonicotinoids. Tobacco, you know, nicotines. From the nicotine, the chemicals, they develop the neonicotinoids. The neonicotinoids, they are creating the malforms in insects. This means change the hormone balance in insects. The hormone balance is changing, then insect will not be a healthiest. It's not healthier form. That's the problem. So they are using the botanical. Several botanical extract and the plant parts are used successfully. Here you can show neem leaf water extract, chili pepper, aphids, another vegetable control, and tobacco extract, aphids, flea beetles, and white flies. But the problem is some botanical extracts are even toxic to human being. In neonicotinoids, tobacco extracts, the European Commission, they are arguing that one, they are malformation and autism, the people in human being, maybe due to these neonicotinoids. But if you are using continuously in a small amount, right, in your field, it will not harm. Some of these product names, some of the commercially available products are there from the different plants. Right, extract, especially the rotenone, pyrethrum from the chrysanthemum, nicotine from the tobacco, azadirachtin, nymphin and nymphidine, bionimbidine from the azadirachtin. Right? These are different target insects. They successfully used to control target insects. I see botanical also you can use. If all the techniques, cultural, mechanical, physical, botanicals, autocidals, pheromones are not working, even the pest is causing the severe damages. It's an epidemic situation. You can use chemical as a last resort, right? Chemical as a last resort, I mean as a firefighting tool. The chemicals are dangerous, but it's a different names. Herbicides used for weed control, insecticides used for the insect, fungicides for fungi, and miticides for mites, nematicides, rodenticides for rodents control, avicides to bird control, birds. Some countries, birds are very big problem, especially the black crows in Malaysia. They killed many black crows. The only white crows you can find in Malaysia. right? So this chemical they are using as a last resort, but it's dangerous. Some of the biological pesticides also there mean organism hormones extracted from insects also you can use. Could have studied the juvenile hormone, molting hormone in insects. These hormones they are using as a spray over the insect, then how the insect will not molt. Insect juvenile as will be the adult, will be the adult. Larva will be in larva. No completion of life cycles. But you have to use in minimum amount. We will study later as in separate section biological control and chemical pesticides and its classification and its impact. Right? So this is the way we all are using the integrated management tactics all together in compatible manner as possible to minimize the pest incidents or the pest population causing below harmful level, below economic damage level. Our target of the integrated pest management is to not eradicate an insect or pest, just minimize the pest towards economy below the economic threshold level. The population reduction, that's called management. For that one, you are using the old techniques. That's what we call it as an integrated pest management. Another two terms are there: eradication and control. Right? Eradication means complete wipe out of a pest. Complete wipe out of a pest is needed when if you are producing planting material for export purposes or if you are producing planting materials for selling. You have to use eradication techniques in your nursery beds because the planting material should be free from pests. No? At the time you can use, or if an introduced pest is causing academic damage, you have to go for an eradication. Otherwise, you're always thinking about management to balance the biodiversity in equilibrium condition. Otherwise, the environment will not be in balanced form or diversified form. Then there will be a problem. Right, that's all for the section 1 end. We studied what is IPM, what are the tactics used for the IPM, each and every tactics for which pest, and advantages and disadvantages of each tactics. If you won't ask any question, please ask.